pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda is Judge Rentschler and Judge Fahl for additional appropriations.
Sure. I think we first want to brag a little bit on ourselves, or at least our ability to bring some money to the county. We, as you all hopefully remember, we're bringing the Odyssey court management system to Whitley County through the state, generally free of charge. And that's happening in the next couple of months. We're actually doing a lot of training in May, and that should be online the end of May, beginning of May.
May 20th.
May 20th. May 20th. And along with that comes some free hardware that the state is providing. So all of Superior Court staff, all of Circuit Court staff, and all of the clerk's office staff gets free new computers. And I know we were all due for new computers in the courthouse, so we're taking care of a lot of that on the tab of the state. One of the things that comes along with that, however, though, is I need to update some of our software. So we have recording equipment in both courthouses, or courtrooms, that needs to be updated. It's called FTR, for the record. And initially we were led to believe that that wouldn't be any charge to update that, and we would all be set, but we were notified late in the process, about a month ago, I think, that actually there is going to be a charge for updating that software, and it's around $3,700 per court, I believe. So we're here today to ask for an additional appropriation for that amount in lieu of the request for the new computers, which are being paid for by the state. So that is the purpose for our being here today.
Well, and again, just to apologize, we would have put it in our budget for this year. We actually talked to the computer for Preferred IT about that, but they were under the impression that they could get us an interim version to hold off for another year and then put it in next year's budget. So we always hate to come back and appear that we didn't plan ahead, but we thought we would be fine. And then they told us that apparently the person that's going to do that is retired, so they can't get that, and we needed to buy the new version, which I'm sure you've all been in this spot before, where every time you upgrade a computer, the old version will not work with the Windows 10, and that's why we have to ask for the upgrade, or get the upgrade and ask for the additional appropriation. So we do apologize. If we would have known that, we would have had it in our budget and not had to come back and ask for additional appropriations. We always hate to do that.
And I would ask, because you expected the state was going to pay for the new computers, they were not in your budget.
Correct. We were talking, I think, maybe even a year or longer ago with the commissioners about an eventual computer upgrade, and it was coming, and planning for it, and not upgrading, or figuring out exactly when it would have to happen because of certain software that was lapsing and not being compatible with the old operating system. And then when we decided to move to the Odyssey system last year, we learned that along with that comes these new computers, so it's actually fortuitous that the timing that allows us to get these new computers at this time when we were due for a hardware upgrade anyway.
Jenna, the budget county general analyst, are you?
Is there two or just one?
There's two, one for each court. It's basically we pay for the license that actually sits that's on the computer in the courtroom, and then it comes with additional software that allows us, for instance, I can sit in my office, and if I'm trying to remember a hearing and I'm working on an order, I can listen to the hearing in my office. Those are free of charge, but there's one license per courtroom that we have to pay for.
I make a motion we approve both the Superior Court and Circuit Court additional appropriation request for $3,675 times 2.
Second that motion.
Just to clarify, the motion is for Superior and Circuit.
Yes.
So it would cover both additional appropriations and funded by County General.
Yes.
I've got a motion and a second. I'll go ahead and call for a vote. All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, the same. Motion passes with all present members voting in favor.
Thank you very much, Sterling. Appreciate it.
We can talk about our other issues as well.
Did you need us to stay?
I'm not going to have that. I thought we'd have the ordinance, but the ordinance isn't complete yet.
What about the video teleconferencing? Did you?
Oh, yeah, video teleconferencing. As part of the commissioner's report, I was going to talk about video conferencing. We've got, it was presented to you last week, or last month, about video conferencing, the $59,000 appropriation that we were asking for the judges. And basically, that was for teleconferencing, it's for cameras, it's for, to upgrade the system that we have now. The system we've got is probably, I don't know what it is, probably 8 years old, 9 years old, and it wasn't the best system. It was the best available at that time, but now things have really improved. So what the commissioners were hoping to do is present to you as part of County General, if County General couldn't handle it, that we would like to present as a CEDAC project. The $59,000, and it could be as much as $59,000 or as little as $30,000. So it's going to be in that range is what it's going to be. They're not sure exactly right now because of the number of cameras that they're going to need. So hopefully you've got that from your packet from last month. But what we're suggesting is we're asking that it come out of County General, but we do have CEDAC funds available if needed.
Well, George, I'd like to see it come out of CEDAC. For number one is that general fund, we can use it for so many different things.
Right.
Where we're kind of restricted to what you can do with that CEDAC plan, so.
Right.
I would like to see it, if the council sees fit, that it come out of the CEDAC plan.
Does the CEDAC fund got funds or not?
Yeah, we
Are
encumbered over
available?
$680,000 this year from 18 to 19, and so we didn't use all the CEDAC funds that we thought we were going to use last year. But we've got to be prepared that we are going to have a jail situation coming up here, that we're going to need all the monies that we can come up with, and I think Mark's got a proposal also to you. But
Send that back and have them sign.
Last month's discussion, I think we asked if there was another provider so that we could have two bids. Is that, or not another appropriate provider?
We have not asked for one at this point. We had
This needs to be signed
a little
too,
bit
that's
trouble
all.
finding someone that could provide the service.
Okay.
So we asked a gentleman who had done some other work for us to put together a proposal for it. The system we have now is working. It's a little bit of a, each day when we start it, but it does work, and we use it, I use it considerably. I had 14 incarcerated yesterday, and those incarcerated can stay in the jail, in the building over there, and we do all the hearings via video teleconferencing. What we're getting from Preferred IT is the system is so outdated, again, they can't support it. So if it were to go down, it would be out. And at that point, then the sheriff would have to transport those folks back and forth. So really what we're doing is we're trying to get ahead of the game, so to speak, in terms of before we have an emergency where it's down and we can't get it back up. We're trying to prepare for that and make sure that we have a system in place, or at least started to replace the system we have now.
Now, does this interface with the recording system that we just talked about?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Everything, the most important thing in the courtroom, and I think Judge will tell you, is we have to record everything. That is, I mean, anything else can go wrong, but if the recording is down, we have to stop. But as long as we have a recording, that's our record, and that's what we're required to maintain. And the system does interface with the recording system, and that's probably the key component of why it gets expensive. You could do any number of even apps on a phone, but then to have it properly interface with the recording equipment is where we had to bring in the professionals. Judge Rentschler even looked at some possible apps that he was using on his cell phone and things like that to see if we could just do a low-cost alternative to a video teleconferencing system itself, but we just couldn't get anything to interact with the recording equipment.
It's also a reliability issue.
Sure.
I know when we had our current system put in place, immediately the provider either went out of business or stopped providing support for the hardware they just installed, and it was a really bad situation because we spent a lot of money and then got very little support, and have been kind of patching together what we have to make work for the last 8 or 10 years. Hoping to not only, and part of the requirements that we put on this provider was a service plan where they're willing to come back and take care of things for years into the future after installing the hardware.
The goal is that we don't, instead of transporting prisoners or even if we have a new facility at some point down the road, they don't move. Everything's done technically. And that's worked very well for us. As you can imagine, if we had 14 individuals, that'd take 3 or 4 jail staff to walk them across the street, get them in that small elevator and get them up to the courtroom. All be right there in that room with one sheriff's deputy, and we conduct 14 hearings all afternoon, and nobody has to move outside the jail. There's no worry about escape. There's no worry about somebody getting hit crossing the road, things like that. So it is a valuable system. But again, we're here to try to start that process so that you all can, before we have an emergency. Right now, it's working.
I would like to say also that as part of the Odyssey system, the commissioners had in their CEDAT budget for this year, I think we had over $70,000 in that budget to replace computers. We had in that, as part of that, the courthouse computers that we were going to have to replace. And with the state replacing those computers, we have over an $18,000 savings just with the computers that they're getting from the state. So there is a savings that we can use for that also.
So what is it?
Do you anticipate having this up and running this year?
I think so.
Yes.
I think the providers are waiting for the go-ahead, and we've had the quote in since January or earlier, I think. So, yeah, I would think that within a couple of months, if we're giving the go-ahead at the very latest, we'd have it up and running.
Okay, so that makes a difference money-wise too.
Sure. And we had then, Preferred IT, Jason took a look at it, the proposal. He's given us some different options, where we might be able to cut this or cut that. Like George said with the proposal for the number of cameras, the fewer cameras, the better as far as I'm concerned. But so there are some ways we can trim that down if we have to as well. Jason's provided some good feedback for that.
I would say don't cut costs just to cut costs if it's going to hinder the operation. But is this just informational since there's already budgeted money, or do we need an ordinance?
The budgeted money was for computers that we were going to have to replace for the courthouse and for the Odyssey system. And so that really wasn't part of this. This would be additional $59,000.
So we'll need an appropriation resolution?
Well, actually, it'll just be an approval for a project, a new project for CEDAT funds.
I move we approve the project that the commissioner will determine what they're doing.
Is that out of seat, Bill?
Yeah.
I'll second the motion.
So I have a motion and a second. I'll call for a vote. All those in favor signify with your right hand. Opposed, the same. And the motion passes with all members present.
Again, thank you all very much for your support. We appreciate it. We know it's not a glamorous thing to support the justice system, but it's a necessity. We really appreciate all your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Judge Rentschler?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, there was also a request for transfer through
Yeah,
your
what?
court, so you want to deal with that also?
Well, I wasn't aware of that.
There is.
This is Circuit Court JDAI, Professional Services Supplied. I'm sorry, I was not advised of this. I know Lindsay Griffin for JDAI is the provider. I'm not sure why we're moving money around here. I wish I could answer your question.
It's a request, so we might as well take care of it while you're here.
Right.
Can you speak to that at all? Do you know?
I'm pretty sure Jeanette sent it to me, so that's all.
Get on the line real quick, answer my questions, I'll be back. I want to just pop out for 5 minutes, and I'll pop back in, okay? All right, thank you.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Yep.
So next item on the agenda is Jill Snyder, Whitley County DFI grant request.
Hopefully you all have No, you do not, because I got it yesterday morning, and I forgot to make you copies. Tiffany's making you copies and bringing them down.
Okay.
The grant monies to the applicants.
I don't believe we have
So we don't have a copy of this. Copies are being made for us right now and being brought down. Do you want to go ahead and speak to it while we're waiting on the copies, or?
That's all I have. This is my last year, so you won't see me next time.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I would
Yes.
like to say that the commissioners gave a favorable pass to the grant request.
Okay. So the commissioners have been given a favorable pass.
I have been on the Drug-Free Indiana committees before on it. It is viewed and by their committee on it, and certain amounts of money is appropriated for each step of the way on it, whether it be the police departments, mental health, et cetera, down through. With that committee's recommendation on it, you know, if everybody wants to see what it is, it was, but I'll make a motion that we approve it.
Is it a transfer request or a
It's a grant.
grant?
There's no money out of county general or whatever. It's a grant from the state from Drug-Free Indiana. Correct?
You're just applying for it. John, is that what you do? Or-
Yeah. It's been approved on it, X amount of dollars on it, and it shows how it is spent out with the different agencies.
So the state actually gets a comprehensive plan which we update every year. And then they also get this sheet, but it says, you know, like what the money's gonna be used for. Like, for instance, the vet corp, they use their grant money for UA incentive. So if a person has 3 negative drug screens, therefore drug screen that is negative will not be charged to them. So that's what they use their money for. So the state sees this first, and I adjust this with a request, and then they send a letter to the county saying that they have approved our comprehensive plan and our budget. So that's what, but I still need, I received the commissioner's okay yesterday, so I need you. I can write this.
So this is, you're telling us what you're doing with the money that you got a grant. You got a grant and you're telling us what you're doing with the money.
This money comes from, let me see what it's called. $200, the person gets charged when they have an offense and convicted of the offense of anything to do with drugs or alcohol. It's countermeasure fee. The state charges a countermeasure fee. And from that, a portion of that money goes into this fund for Drug-Free Indiana.
Okay.
So it does not come out of county general at all. It's all user paid, I guess.
Sure. So we have a motion
I got
to
a question.
approve. Go ahead.
Okay, so the top item, Chair Busco, sad, South Whitley and Columbia City doesn't have anything like that, or they don't request money, or?
Oh, so Columbia City stopped coming about 5 years ago. They couldn't find an adult representative.
Okay.
Which is sad. And then Whitco did not come back from this new school year, 2018. They didn't come back because they did not have an adult sponsor. Without that, like Churubusco, the adult sponsor, brings them in a minibus. Whitco, they were able to drive, like a student could drive their car and the other students in the car. And Columbia City had to have a bus. So that takes an extra person, an extra staff person. There's a stipend for it, but they just couldn't find anything.
So if they don't,
have a connection with those in the Whitco or
Okay.
Columbia City.
okay, thank you. That answers my question. I just didn't understand, but now I know. Thank you.
So we have a motion by Councilman Barrett to approve TFI grant. Do I have a second? I have a second. I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, the same, and the motion passes. Thank you. Next up, Mark Sturtevant.
Morning.
Morning.
For those of you I haven't met yet, Mark Sturtevant, the maintenance director for the county. I apologize, I meant to be here in the last month's meeting. I didn't make it. Before we start with the facility report, I would like to bring up that we had, every year we have our elevators inspected by the state. Well, the state hired a new inspector. and he went a little crazy. So we have several violations on the jail elevator, the government center elevators. At the jail, they wrote up the traveling cable. That's the cable, it's about 35, 40 feet long, I believe, that goes from the control panel, the control box, with the car, and it goes up and down with the car. To replace that cable is $13,115. They wrote up some rust in the bottom of the pit on some of the structure. The remediation for that is $2,703. And then at the government center here, I guess both the outcalling phones failed, so we need to replace the control boards in those phones. And that's at a cost of $2,024. So I'm asking for consideration to fund the $17,842 for these violations.
Who's that bid from, Mark?
That is from ThyssenKrupp Elevator. We cannot get multiple bids on that. When you sign an elevator contract, you have to exclusively use them. And state mandates a binding contract with a provider.
We're currently in a bonding contract with this.
ThyssenKrupp, yes.
Is this requesting to use the funds that are already available within your budget, or is this an additional?
These are additional. I'm asking how you would like to do it.
Are there funds available to do this in your budget, and then towards the end of the year, request an additional?
The current balance, that the account that they would have to come out of, is $37,296. Yes, they could be taken out of there, but that money just isn't sitting in there waiting for something to happen. A lot of that is already appropriated for different contracts that we already have. For instance, the elevator contracts come out of that.
What is that line item? What
36004.
You say you have only got other contracts you've already agreed to pay.
What's he using it for?
There's other funds that automatically come out of that. Like
what?
we ran into some issues, courthouse, we're currently having to do quite a bit of rewiring. We've had some issues with the circuits, and actually
Well, I understand that, but you don't actually have a contract with someone that's gonna get paid out of it. You do or you don't?
we do, like the elevator contracts that come out of that.
Anybody else?
I would have to look.
Well, if you don't, you've got enough, as John brought up, you've got enough money to cover it, and if you run short of money, you come back, which is the way we've done before.
Okay.
So just to clarify, the funds that are already committed by contract are less than the difference between what's in that
Correct.
account and this, okay. So then we would make an additional appropriation when there's another need.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. That works for me, so there's no need for us to call for a vote on anything. You've got the money in that line item, and then you'll come back if and when you need more.
Well, that's what we've done with that budget before and others. If there's money in the budget, that's what it's for, spend it, then you can run short, come back and see it.
Okay, the facility report. How do you want me to go? Just go down through each one of these line items? Do we want to discuss each one, or just want me to go through it? I guess I'm looking for direction of the report I try to bring you each year. That which is in red is what my recommendation is, based on the need And I've tried to provide you with some pictures to support that. At the jail, the top one there, the Bradley valves, those lavatory valves, those, we've been replacing a few a year,
We have been,
and it's getting really expensive. The price keeps going up, and at the rate we're going to spend an additional $100,000 just replacing the 44 that are left, if we keep going at the rate we're going, versus if we just get them a contract to replace them all at once. That's what the 76,780 comes from, 76,780.
These Bradley valves are different than what's already in there, right?
Currently, we have Sloan valves in there. The problem we're having with those, besides they're being 30 years old, there's a stem inside there that's plastic. So if the inmate slams the button on the lavatory to turn on the water, they end up snapping that little stem off, and then they don't have any water. So the guard will shut the water off, but if the valve doesn't hold in some of them, which they don't, they end up having to shut off the next available valve, which in some cases shuts off 2 cells. So now we've lost water in 2 cells. That's stool, sink, that's everything.
did we fix those valves then?
We can fix those, and we do, at the rate of about 2 to 3 a week. We're having to go in there and replace those because they
We
snapped
talk
off.
about the
I'm
one
sorry.
before that, when they shut it off, and that doesn't work, so we have to go to another. Do we fix that one?
That's part of this, that valve gets replaced also in this proposal. That's what I'm saying.
And so is this money that you already have in your budget?
No. This is money I'm asking your direction of how you'd like us to cover these things.
So where to pay for it from?
Correct. So we're spending about $2,200 if we replace one at a time. And that, like I said, that price keeps going up. I think it jumped close to $300 in just this last year. A
When,
piece.
when one breaks, it's replaced with a Bradley.
No.
It's
Right
replaced
now-
with the parts that are,
Correct. But the next day, they could break it again.
okay.
And the sheriff has been replacing these as he can afford them. I'm coming to you and asking you, can we do this in one project? And save some money in the long run?
So George, where would funds for this be available from? Any accounts besides county general?
Well, we don't have anything, I think last year we spent over $300,000 out of CEDAT for repairs, but, we don't have anything for 2019
Okay.
that's being requested for anything on repairs. And as you can see, we're looking at, a total of, and this is for, a 5-year period of $1 million, close to $1 million, but.
So I'm looking at Cume Cap, the building maintenance line right now, and it looks like there's $189,199 available, but I'll remind us too that it's only April 2nd.
Yeah.
Well, again, if we choose to spend that, it would run out, we just have to go back to the general fund. But that's what we're telling the other entities to do what you've got first.
Mark, the way you've got these listed, is that your priority? I mean,
By
Like
by building.
your number one issue right now would be the valves, lavatory valves.
Well, let's talk about that software. The HVAC software, or the front end, if you will, that controls the HVAC, is between 15 and 20 years old. And that's about the lifespan of those. And the manufacturer does not support it anymore, kind of like what we went through with the courts. So when that goes, we lose the ability to see or make any changes to the HVAC system within the jail. In other words, the system will keep running, but if there's an issue, we have no idea if there's an issue. We can't correct that issue without calling in a contractor each and every time to make those adjustments. A lot of them can be made in-house on our computers if we have the ability to see what's going on in the jail.
Does that happen often?
Yes, it does. In fact, we monitor all three buildings daily, all day long, starting from 5 in the morning till evening. We monitor the buildings.
So you've indicated both of those as urgent, which they both seem to be pretty urgent.
And if you ask me to choose, I would say the software would be the most urgent. I guess the valves would be a cost savings if we wanted to do them up front. We can certainly continue to do those a few a year, just like we have been. I would say if I had to choose from this list, that would probably be one of the lower ones.
Mark, on those valves, that $76,780, that's the cost installed by contractor, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's your availability or your team's availability to go in there and do those?
Time constraint the most. We are stretched with our availability to do something like this. The problem is you need to dedicate large chunks of time to go in and do these. Where we're basically reacting right now because we're understaffed as far as reacting to things, situations. So to dedicate that block of time would be rather difficult.
So you said you're understaffed. Does that mean that you just don't have enough people to go around, or you have a budget position open to fill?
I don't have enough people. And I've come to the council last year.
Yeah, we didn't approve a request for an extra person.
Okay. All right.
So Mark, at this point, you're just looking for some guidance on which projects to move forward with and when.
And then if we go down to the courthouse, historically, I've come to you each year and asked for funding to replace an X amount of heat pumps. We're down to the last 4, so I'm asking for the $35,000 to replace the last 4 in the courthouse, and then they will all have been replaced. Those existing heat pumps are approximately 22, 23 years old now.
We've been doing one of those or two of them every year, haven't we?
3 to 4, somewhere in there. We're down to 4.
Is that just because you think they need to be replaced, or have you been having trouble with them?
We've been replacing them because of the age.
No, the ones that you got here.
They're currently
just
running.
because they're old,
Yes,
but they
they're
are
currently
working.
operational. But to get to them is quite expensive. So if we lose a compressor, it doesn't make any sense to drop a 20-year-old unit from the ceiling to replace a compressor and put the same old unit right back up in there. The east steps, which I provided you a picture with, those are getting pretty bad. So the cost to replace those would be $7,100. I kind of lumped the sidewalks together from the east steps, the north sidewalk, the south sidewalk, and the south steps. Those combined is $85,230.
And again, this is a contractor doing the work.
Yes.
Well, I think fixing those sidewalks is probably one of the more important things on here, because if we get somebody trips over those things, we're gonna have lawsuits you can't believe. I think we
And
We
we've had a
need to
couple
address that more
in
than
the
any
past
of the
few
rest.
years.
So Bill, you're recommending to make that a priority?
Yes, I am. I think we've got a lot of liability there if we don't take care of it, since we already know it's a problem.
Chad, how much money did you say was available there at this point?
In building maintenance, I think it was
Maybe not.
189,000.
And those aren't committed to any contracts or anything that you can tell?
I believe that's what's available now.
Okay.
Or 190. 189.
It was $189,199.
Those, somebody has already put a bracket on there, it's 85,000 for those four.
If we could push any of them out, it would be the south sidewalk. The north and the east really need to be done.
I'm not in favor of pushing any of them out. If we're gonna do them, let's do them.
Yeah, and I feel the same way about the lavatory valves. I mean, why would we spend an extra $25,000 by just piecemealing it out if it's a problem that can be resolved? The boiler restoration.
In the government center, we have two boilers. They run 365, 24 hours a day. They never shut off. They rotate weekly. So there's considerable amount of hours on them. And what's happening is the refractory on the inside of the boilers
Saw the picture.
are crumbling and breaking away. Well, if it gets too bad, what happens is it starts distorting the metal cabinet itself, and then we get into some real expense in repairing those.
And they're both at the same level of deterioration?
Yes, they both run equal amount of time. Like I said, they rotate every week, so they both have the same amount of run time on them. And they both, I gave you one picture, but they both look identical. We've been I've been bringing this to you a couple of times before. I brought it to the commissioners. They're aware of the condition of them. So it's about $10,000 a piece to redo that refractory in those.
Do the commissioners have a recommendation on which is most urgent to be addressed this spring? Or have you guys not processed that?
Well, they're all important, and I guess we really haven't discussed that too much. Boiler restoration is gonna be one that is gonna have to be done.
That can always be done in the summertime,
Yeah.
Yeah.
really shut it down.
But if you knew these were coming, I wish they should have been in your budget request.
Well, I've gotten mixed reaction from the council as to what to put in the budget, and
That's one of them. I would admit, it's just like the other stuff we've talked about. If you know it's coming, request it.
So on this list, if we were to approach or to tackle the HVAC software upgrade, the remainder of the heat pumps and, no, I'm sorry, not the remainder of the heat pumps, the steps, the sidewalks, and the south steps. So east, south steps, south sidewalk, north sidewalk. And if we were able to do boiler restoration, the sum of those three items would be $130,230. We have $189,199 available in that line item for building maintenance. So we could certainly afford at this point to take on those projects.
And we just can't keep ignoring them because they aren't gonna get any better until we do something about it.
Would there be a significant cost increase on the jail lavatory valves if we split that in half and did half now and half another time? Would that
Like I
significantly
said, each
increased.
valve went up, I think the cost of the valves went up about $350, something like that.
Installed, right?
Just the price of the valve.
Just the price of the valve.
Okay.
And of course,
Okay.
labor cost goes up a little bit each year, but not that significant. But the last item there on the work release, that is a significant issue that needs to be addressed. You can see that in the pictures.
I didn't have a picture of that. We didn't have it allowed to. Yeah, okay, thank you.
That brick veneer cap flashing has failed. There's allowed water to infiltrate in between the brick mortar joints and behind the brick into the wall. And through the freeze-thaw cycle, it's popped a lot of those joints and even cracked the bricks.
So if we added that piece in there, we would still stay within the amount of money that's available, but it would leave nothing for the jail valves, and you're okay with that? If we have to be right now?
Yes.
It would leave 45,000. It would leave us with $45,875 in building maintenance. And again, that's out of coon cap.
Do you foresee any other big things coming up this year in the maintenance?
I do not. No. Like I said, unless we lose a heat pump.
So what would we like to do?
I would make a motion that we do the HVAC software upgrade, all of the step and sidewalk work, boiler restoration and the masonry restoration, and fund them out of cume cap, the maintenance budget. And wait and see on the heat pumps and the lavatory valves.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any additional comments or questions?
So if we use all the money in that account, is there some place we roll more money out of into that account?
We can,
You would have to do an additional appropriation.
we can take it
From
out of
general.
fund and it's
No,
pretty
from
healthy.
the cash balance of cume cap.
So have we done that before?
If, yeah.
Okay.
Too many times.
I have a motion and a second. I'll go ahead and call for a vote on this. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, the same. And the motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Chad?
Yes.
Jeff Rentschler is back.
Chairman, if I might.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I've spent a few minutes trying to reach my staff, and those of which who would know what this is are not at work today, either on spring break or taking a day off. So I want to ask you to table that item for a month. I think it's just moving money around within the JDAI grant from one purpose to another, but I can't say for sure, and I wouldn't ask you to take the lead without me being able to explain that to you. So if you can table that until next month, we'll be back to explain it to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is John Myers, EDC annual update.
I'm here to bring good news.
Good.
How about that?
So I know, so I'm John Myers, president of the Whitley County Economic Development Corporation. I know several of you attended our annual meeting a couple weeks ago, but like to come in here once a year, at least once a year, and give all of you an opportunity to ask any questions and make any suggestions in terms of, things that you think we ought to be doing. So if you did attend the meeting, you've seen some of these numbers, but I've got a little more detail behind them, and I'll make this as quick as possible. So, first off, I'm not here today asking for any money, but rather to talk about the money that has come in over the last year. When I took this job 4 years ago, one of my top priorities was focusing really anything we do on how it's going to impact the county, bring more tax revenues into the county to support the things that you all need to do, whether it's new roads, new sewers, boilers in the basement, whatever the case may be. You have a copy of the annual report that we just put together. You'll notice not so much focus on job growth this past year. We're at a place where unemployment is so low within the county. We haven't maybe put as much time into going out and recruiting companies to come and add 500 jobs or whatever the case may be. When you only have 350 people in the entire county that are unemployed, it makes it kind of hard to make the pitch to somebody to try and hire 500 folks from the community. So a lot of what we've done, and probably what you've seen in our efforts over the last year or two, has been as much focus on recruiting residents or encouraging people to move to Whitley County or come here and start their businesses, but bringing their people with them to do the jobs, as opposed to, again, going out and looking for big companies to move here and with the need to hire a lot of folks. That has paid off. Last year, the Census Bureau's estimate on our population actually was slightly higher than the national average, and was the highest population growth, not only in percentages, but just sheer number of people. Well, I shouldn't say that. Highest percentage of population growth of any of the 11 counties in Northeast Indiana. So we're doing the right things community-wide, county-wide in our communities in terms of creating places where people want to live and build homes and bring more kids into our schools. And we will continue to do that going forward. I also handed out two separate packets. The first of showing our increase in tax revenue over the last 7 years. And as you can see, in the last year, when you add up all the CAGIT, CDIT, LOIT, property taxes, everything, tax revenues for the county was a little over $2 million year on year, which equals out about a 4.9% increase in revenue, again, year to year. So the idea there is if we can keep that number higher than the percentage increase on expenses that the county and our communities have, then be easier to stay in budget. You guys won't have to raise taxes. You can stay ahead of the curve in terms of the expenses, do some of the maintenance we just talked about. I've got breakdowns by taxes on the next page, gives you kind of a nice visual. Again, these are things that as you get questions when you're out in the community in terms of, what are you doing to help keep taxes down? I mean, it's it's a two variable equation. I mean, the expense issues that you deal with every time, but then also what are you doing to make the community more attractive to people, so more people move here and pay taxes, more companies move here and pay taxes, and provides that balance and growth that we all need. You'll also note that the second packet that I have there, we track the increase in the assessed value in the county as well. You can see the total assessed value in 2008 or 2018. It's about $2.4 billion, and that provides the basis for your property taxes, which make up the biggest part of the tax revenues coming into the county. Again, that's AVs continued to increase as well. Again, our target there is to stay ahead of any inflation or the trending that you get from the state in terms of any property values going up. And then we have it broken down by different types of property. So far and away, the biggest assessed valuation comes from the agricultural community, makes up about a third of the assessed value, but that tends to be relatively flat at a little over half a billion dollars in assessed value. So what the EDC does, we work on things like the commercial assessed value, getting more buildings built, industrial buildings, and of course residential in terms of attracting folks. So those are all, have all been on an upward trend, so looking good in that regard, and we will continue to push on all fronts. That's pretty much it for 2018. I guess any questions or thoughts or suggestions that you'd all like to make?
No, I applaud you for your hard work.
Well, that's what you guys hire me to do, so if I'm not doing it, you'd need to find somebody else to do a better job, so. But thanks anyway.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any ongoing projects, that there's anything you can update us on at this point, or is it all still?
Not at this point, but hopefully very soon. Thanks.
Thank you.
Next up is Cindy Barnett.
There's a big possibility.
There was anything that could be said.
I already see this.
What's that? You want another one? Yeah. I'll just give you the supplement. Sure. Good morning, Mr. Barnett.
Thank you.
Morning, Tom.
How are you?
Good.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Cindy.
Shall I bring one for George?
Yeah, I'll give him one.
Okay.
That's fine.
Good
Thank you.
morning. So what do I have on left over?
Must be your copy.
Yes, I can. Okay. Good morning, Cindy Barnett with the Extension Office. So we too had our annual meeting last week. I want to thank Bill for coming and representing all of you. But I do like to come once a year and kind of give you an update on what's happening at the Extension Office. So with our annual meeting, typically we choose an area, a subject that we have been working on really hard the past year or so and focus on that. This year we decided to do things a little bit different, and we chose a subject that we haven't been working in, and that was the topic of opioids. So we realized that nationwide, statewide, and countywide, there is a crisis in opioid overuse, opioid abuse. And currently, we are not really working in that particular area. We weren't even really sure what was happening in the county, so we pulled together a panel of local people who have been working in the area Captain Kevin Hunter from Fort Wayne, the Narcotics Division, was our keynote speaker, our lead speaker. And then on the panel, we had represented law enforcement, education, treatment, and a facility that is currently working with women. It was an excellent, excellent panel. We only had about an hour and a half, which was not enough time. But the comments from those that came to the meeting was, it was the best meeting that we've ever had, and it certainly is a topic that we need to work in and work on. One of the things that really came out of it was, even in Whitley County, we've got several people working in this particular area, but those people didn't even know each other. You know, so we had a superintendent, as an example, that didn't know that we had somebody in the health department who's working on a task force, who didn't know what law enforcement was doing, who didn't know about the treatment that Bowen Center is offering. So if nothing else, I thought it was good that, you know, those people got together. So at the end of the program, we did have a survey for those people that were in attendance. We had about 70 people there. And we asked them essentially, what do we as Extension need to be doing to address this? What partnerships do we need to form? What group do we need to get connected with to start working? So our board will be meeting in about 3 weeks, and we're going to take those results to them and have them help guide us in where we need to get started on that. So we were really excited about the program. We were excited to do it. I was really pleased with the panel, and it was an excellent, excellent discussion. Bill, do you have anything to say?
It was a good meeting. I agree, it was timely.
Yes.
The commissioner, you comment someone, what's going on with that. But, yeah, very timely.
Unfortunate we have to be talking about it, but we do. So in your packet, there's this little brochure that says on the front, opioids. And we titled the program Opioids in Whitley County because many times we tend to maybe be in denial, saying, we live in a good county, it doesn't occur here, but yes, it does. So that was what we called our program. On the inside, we always highlight just a few of the programs that we've been doing the past year. Sometimes they're ongoing programs, sometimes they're new ideas with new audiences. So I just thought I would share a few of those with you. We are fortunate enough here in Whitley County to have a Purdue research farm. And so we do work with them on a very regular basis. Last year we had 3 different programs that we held out there. The first one in June, we talked about seed treatment technologies. And then in August, there was another meeting, had about 150 farmers there. Talked about soybean crop updates, corn updates, weed control, agronomic fertility, and UAVs. Every month, we have to report to Purdue as well as to USDA what we're doing, what programs we have, the numbers, et cetera. And so one of the requests for this coming year is, or for last year, get my years mixed up, was to report how many acres our program affect. And so the program we had out at NEPAC in August represented almost 54,000 acres. We have a group of junior leaders that are part of our 4-H program. They are the older kids. They're the ones that are in grades 7 through 12. They're all about education and community service, building those leadership skills. So one of the new projects they did last year was at Christmas time, they baked 75 dozen cookies and delivered them to some of our public servants. They also collected Toys for Tots, rang the bell for Salvation Army. And then they had a couple of fundraisers throughout the year, raised over $2,000, and bought 5 new display cases to be used out at the 4-H Center. John Woodmansey is our extension educator for agriculture. He has an advisory committee that he works with twice a year just to kind of keep up on what's going on and trends. And one of the ideas that they asked for was a program on timber marketing. So that was a new program that John did last year, had 19 people come, and 63% of them did indicate that they were going to make a change in their timber management. I work with a group called Extension Homemakers. It's a group mostly of women. We have 130 of them in 10 clubs here in Whitley County. We have 2 clubs in Busco, 2 in Whitley, 1 in Larwell, and the rest of them are in Columbia City. They are the kind of the adult version of the junior leaders. They are about education and community service. And last year, these 130 adults donated almost 3,000 items. They donated over 6,600 volunteer hours, and they donated over $17,000 to local projects. Todd Geiger is our extension educator in 4-H and youth development, and he has a real interest in STEM. And so he has been working really hard with the school systems to get STEM projects involved. He uses some of the junior leaders as his team that goes into the elementary schools. This team of teenagers, the junior leaders, have put together about 20 different projects that they take into the schools. They don't do them all at the same time. But last year he reached over 1,200 kids in 7 of our different elementary schools. And this year so far, he has already added another school as well as the center. Just a quick update on our 4-H youth numbers, and I know Todd was here last month. As of about a week ago, we have almost 800 enrolled in 4-H. Last year we had 812, so we're sure that we will surpass that. We continue our Whitley County Youth Leadership Program, which is working with sophomores. And it's a program for the sophomores that are, the ones that need a little bit of encouragement. The teachers, the principals see leadership skills there, but it just hasn't been developed yet. So we have 5 sophomores from each of the 3 high schools that meet on a monthly basis. We have 130 adult volunteers so far. Last year, Feeder Calf was our largest livestock project at the fair, and the largest non-livestock project was baked goods. So far, we have almost 200 kids enrolled in 4-H for the first time. And in our mini 4-H program, which is grades K, 1, and 2, we have 138 enrolled so far this year. One of the new programs that I've been doing is called a block party, and this is essentially a parenting program, but it is to teach parents how to sit on the floor and play with their kids using blocks as the toy. And you know, it seems like it should be so simple, but it's not. There are many parents that they might put the blocks on the floor and then they tell their kids to sit down and play. And so this program is really to encourage the parents to sit on the floor, talk with their kids, ask them about colors and numbers and, you know, how do you build this, and, you know, using some of those engineering skills, make some decisions. It's a fun program to do. And last year I reached over 200 parents representing about 625 kids. I went to Head Start, the South Whitley Community Library, and BABE, and did the program multiple times at each of those. A program in its second year that I have been doing is called Without a Will, and just the goal of the program is to encourage all adults to have a will. And what many of them don't understand is if they die without a will, they die intestate, the state of Indiana will decide how their property is distributed. It's been well accepted. I did the program over 45 times last year and reached a little over 1,000 families. So And Master Gardeners is a program that John does. Last year, we had 10 from Whitley County that were in the class. It's a 14-week program, 3 hours each week. Those Master Gardeners learn all kind of horticulture skills, and then their job is to go out and educate the community. So last year, the Master Gardeners volunteered almost 2,800 hours. They themselves, through continuing education, had almost 1,000 hours in those community education hours, and they reached over 7,300 people. So that just gives you a brief idea of some of the different kinds of programming that we do. And then the white sheet, that is just the extra sheet in there, this is just the number sheet. But these are numbers that we have to report. So learner sessions, this is all for 2018. Learner sessions are the educational programs. A learner session has to be at least 30 minutes in length, and there must be at least 5 people in the audience. So last year we did 222 unique learner sessions. 135 of those we taught individually, and then 87 of them we taught with another educator, so as a team effort. Those 222 learner sessions equaled 499 hours of education. We do have to report the number of direct contacts, so those are people that we talk to on an individual basis, those people that we see eye to eye, those people that come to a meeting. So we reached 6,861 people last year. We do have to report whether they're Hispanic or non-Hispanic. We also have to report race. And race is self-reported. For every program that we do a survey. So we ask some of these statistics. So if you will look, the number of Hispanic, non-Hispanic does not equal the number of race, and that is because those questions are volunteer, and sometimes people choose not to report their race. Okay, but when you look at those, as we all know, we live in a community of Caucasians. We do have a few blacks in the community, followed up by Asians, but we're mostly a white community. We do use volunteers on a regular basis to teach with us. Last year we had 238 volunteers that taught with us, and those 238 volunteers taught a total of 828 hours. Consultations, there again, these are one-on-one consultations. They can be via phone, in person, or email. We had 745 consultations. We are a member of 68 different community committees, coalitions, different kind of task force in the county. Through those 68 different groups, we did participate in 60 different activities sponsored by those community-wide activities. We wrote a total of 150 news releases that we always send to Post and Mail, South Whitley, Cherubusco, in Whitley County, and Talk of the Town. The indirect contacts are those people that we reach, but not on a one-to-one basis. So as an example, if we have a 4-H leader training, and then that 4-H leader goes back to their club that has 20 4-H members in it, those 20 4-H members are considered indirect contacts. Okay. So last year, our indirect contacts with youth was a little over 9,800 people, and we had over 64,000 indirect contacts with adults. So briefly, that was our 2018 year. So, questions, comments?
No.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next up on the agenda is South Whitley Community Public Library. Randy Holler. Good morning.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
What I'm going to give you is information that actually 3 different points. This first thing is simply to talk about the project that the South Dakota Library is currently working on that cannot proceed with if we do not have the blessing of the county council.
I met with him back in December.
Okay, if you look at the blueprint in front of you, you'll see some red horizontal lines. All I'm doing here is marking off where the existing library is to the bottom of those red lines, and this above here is what the addition that we're planning on doing. This project, I guess before I go any further, I should introduce you to some people who are here. Back here is Alan Fox, who owned and operated Fox Products in South Whitley for 50 years. This is Vicki Gilta, our library director, and she's won statewide awards for her contributions to libraries. And this is Randy Culbertson. He is our CFO, or whatever you want to call him. And he's the one that's been dealing with Ice Miller in preparation of the documents we're going to give you at the end of this. So, anyway, at the top, we are adding a couple of rooms so that Alan Fox's personal library collection and some artifacts that he's collected over the years will have a place to be housed in the library. Alan is a big-time history buff, and he has given us, we'll get to the numbers soon, he's given us a major contribution, and part of the idea is that we would use our facilities to help pass on to primarily youngsters in the town of South Whitley or from Whitco, history. Anyway, you got the idea. The major thing in here, as you can see, is this big auditorium. To give you an idea of what size this auditorium is, you can see how many chairs we have sitting here. If we had about 2 more rows in front of those, that's the size of the auditorium. So it's not huge, but for the town of South Whitley, it's pretty adequate. This is a picture of retractable auditorium seating. Those of us on the building committee and Vicki went with the architect to Peru, Indiana, to Ivy Tech, where they have these seats. These are pictures of their seats. The big thing I was worried about was these seats would, be wobbly like old bleachers or something. These things do not move. And I do not know why the railing sticks out at an angle on the side. Must have something to do with being able to retract them, but I grabbed a hold of those, they don't move either. So this thing is solid. What it does is it retracts, as you can see here, and what it gives us is 2 rooms for the price of 1. These bleachers cost about $30,000 more than what we would have to pay to put in a regular auditorium seating. If we were to duplicate that room, it would cost about $170,000. So we pick up an additional $170,000 worth of space for about $30,000 because we're going to use these type of seats. I don't know if there's anything else you can see here. Upper right-hand corner where you see the restrooms. Our idea is that we will try and make those available when, like, the town has the fall festival, or they always have the garage sale in the spring. There are not enough restrooms for the public. As long as these aren't being tore up, we're going to make them available to the public on those days. Right down here below the horizontal red line, you see a couple of small, it says conference 1 and 2. Those are study rooms or counseling rooms. The library is used frequently where people come in to counsel young men and women, and we don't have small areas like that. And then we were moving the Randy Culbertson's office back here, simply so there will be somebody back in here in case there was some kind of a commotion or something going on. We've increased the size of the staff work area, and by moving them out of the way, we've actually got some more area down here in the old portion of the library. So now we're going to talk about the numbers. The first thing I would say is, and what you want to hear, there will be no tax increases in order to afford this project. But, obviously, we're spending more than our regular budget, which is something that has to be approved by the county council. And we're going to also ask you permission to borrow some money, which will be paid back out of existing funds. But I'm going to go over those numbers with you real quick. The top sheet you have here, with the exception of the bottom two rows, is the which were added by me. These are the state tax rates, or the county tax rates, that were allowed for the library. I make a point that, as you all understand, there's a combination of things that go into establishing tax rate, one of which is the assessed value. So if you look at the first X from 2001 off to the right, you'll see the taxes drop by 2/3. That obviously is not something that the library did. I believe that's when the state said, you guys aren't doing this complicated formula for tax assessment anymore, you're going to use market value. So, again, the assessed value skyrocketed, which meant that the tax, for the budget went way down. If you go down farther, you see in 2011, the tax rate was 0.185. The people who were on the board at that time, including myself, thought that the library had accumulated too much funds in reserve. So we said that we were going to continue to operate at the same budget, but cut the tax rate and spend that extra money down. Well, if you look at the next 3 years after that, where I have the V's, you can see the tax rate was considerably less. We spent it down so far, we almost ran out of money to operate the library. Two bad things happened. One, we didn't have the reserves, so that's why we have to borrow money to do this project. But number two, when the tax rates went down, nobody said anything about tax rates being lower. But when we took them back up to where they were before, everybody noticed. And all of a sudden, we were skyrocketing tax rates. But if you look in comparison to every year since 2001, other than those 3 years, our tax rate's not really out of line with anything. We've continued to operate within the budgets that the state allows us to operate in. Every year we get that coefficient. We can increase the budget by 2% or whatever, and we've always been able to do that. Despite the fact that we're able to accumulate funds, we didn't spend them. So we have again accumulated funds. When we talk about that, I want to talk about the fact the library doesn't squander that money, and one of the ways that I can show you is in this next 2 pages here. What this is the 2 of 5 pages that list from highest to lowest the director's salaries in the state of Indiana. There are 235 public libraries. Our board's goal has been to pay our director the median in the state. So if you turn to the second page, you'll see a darker line between 117, 118. That's the median. If you look up at 114, you'll find South Whitley, Cleveland Township Public Library. So we're within $1,000 of what our goal was. If you flip back to the first page, you go like to number 76. There's Peabody. Number 80's North Webster. Down closer to the bottom, you'll see towns like North Manchester, Syracuse, Ligonier, all of which pay more than we pay our director. But we think if we're at the median and the director retires or gets the job heading the Allen County Public Library at $120,000 a year, that we'll be able to find a replacement, and that's what our goal was. The next thing I want to show you is, this is what the original estimate from the architect was to do the project, SRKM out of Warsaw, who took care of the last expansion that the South Whitley Community Public Library had. They estimated that the building alone would be about $885,000 and that the seats would be $86,700. Then we've got two more sheets. One is, as of the end of February, where our funds stood. This is direct out of our bookkeeper/accountant, the report that was presented at our board meeting. And over to the right-hand side, you will see all of the balances. There's $1.4 million available right now. We have $342,000 available in the rainy day fund. We have $361,000 available in restricted gift funds. And we have $68,000 in LURF. If you look at this page then, at the top is how much is it going to cost to do the building, and then what funds we have available and the shortfalls, which is why we're talking about borrowing money. We actually got somebody to give us a price for building the building of $720,000, which is about $160,000 less than the architect estimated. We had to buy the ground where the building's going to be located. That was done with money that came from Mr. Fox. So if you look at the $360,000 restricted fund and add the $140,000, that adds up to $500,000, which he so generously gave to the public library. The seating is 74.8. We took one row of seats out of the original estimate, and then we're going to put movable seats in for the front row, which costs a lot less money, but they're going to be sitting on the floor. Because it's an auditorium, we want to have some kind of audio-visual, a movie screen, things like that. We estimated $50,000. I've talked to a guy from North Manchester who was involved in the renovations of their high school auditorium. He thinks that $50,000 is going to be close, but he thinks he can get done what we need done. There's a courtyard on the drawing. There's architect fees, which they've already quoted us. If we do finishes in the downstairs meeting room, a second set of stairs out of the basement, Ice Miller, the consultant, and then we have $50,000 for contingency. That comes up with $1,174,490. Here's the money we've got. We got $500,000 from Mr. Fox. We got $60,000 out of the $68,000 from LURF. We're pulling the whole rainy day fund, $342,000, and about half of our gift. I think we can raise $10,000 in gifts. So that gives us $912,000, which means we have a shortfall of $261,000. So we are asking conservatively for the council to approve borrowing up to $300,000. Now, we know we're going to stay below that because the items up here that have X's can all be done later. So we don't have to put in the retractable seating, we just have to accommodate it. So if we start to run over budget too much, we can put that in farther down the road. The movable seating, obviously, the electronics could be put in later. The entire courtyard could be added later. We just have a space for it to be done. The downstairs meeting room finishes. So we can actually cut back to the point where we really only need to come up with $71,000, but then we're not going to be using the library like Mr. Fox wants for a couple of years until we accumulate money again. So you got the idea, right? So there's two things that we have from Ice Miller. One, here, Randy can explain this to you much better than I can. But one of them is the resolution that authorizes where you would authorize us to go ahead with?
Our attorney guiding us through this process provided a written resolution to you, or written up, for you to authorize up to a maximum. Not that we're gonna go out and grab a loan of $300,000, but a maximum of $300,000. That gets us going down the direction of obtaining bids, of figuring out exactly what we do want to do and exactly how much we do want to borrow. Randy showed you the math there. Originally, we want to put $275,000 in there as a maximum, and we thought, well, that's kind of close in case something else comes up, because all this is a maximum. We're setting a maximum amount that we would borrow. Then we'll go through the whole process of exactly what we're going to do, what we're going to delay, and it's going to be below $300,000. But we were advised by our attorney to not place it near what the maximum would be, because we don't want to have to come back and do this all over again. So that's what that document basically provides to you, that you're approving a maximum of $300,000 for us to obtain in loan, which we have already figured out. We pay it back in a matter of 6 years through our local income tax shares that we obtain on a monthly basis. We would, if we started paying out this year, we would have to do a resolution ourselves to have some of that money, instead of going to the general fund, into the fund that would be for the payback of principal and interest. In future years, it would just be budgeted that way. So nothing would have to be done on an annual basis other than this budget. But in 6 years, even the $300,000 could be handled, although that would be a max that we don't really want to approach.
It'd be pretty tight. The good news is, because in the past, and I probably should explain this, when Richland Township and then later Larwell came into our taxing for the library, the director at that time was not a mathematical person. So she relied on guidance from the state of Indiana. I don't remember if it was Department of Local Government Finance or State Board of Accounts, but I've seen the emails where she emailed back and forth and said, I don't know what to do. Well, the state actually allowed the tax rate to stay higher than it probably needed to be. So that's how we were able to accumulate the reserves. However, that also means that those reserves can now be spent to service this debt, and if we need to hire somebody part-time to help staff that area of the library or whatever, those funds are available, therefore, without increasing taxes. I think this is the original of the resolution.
Those are ours, what we passed, in case you wanted to see that. We had basically passed a similar resolution, and this copy is for you to review and hopefully approve for us to proceed from this point forward. We are receiving guidance from Ice Miller, an attorney group that's very familiar with this whole process, holding our hands to it and making sure we do the right resolutions and contact the right DLGF and any changes, or State Board of Accounts, anything that we need to be doing, they're going to guide us through, because none of us have ever been through anything like this.
Yeah. The only other thing I'd say is, in this resolution, there actually is a sentence that says, starts out, wherefore there aren't sufficient tax funds. That just means there aren't for this project, not that our tax rate isn't high enough. Okay. So, we're going to ask for no new taxes. We just need permission from you to spend the money to build the facility and to borrow the money to finish completing it. Who has questions?
Has your library board gave approval of this?
Yes.
Yes. That's the documents that he has right there, a copy of what we approved, which is basically the same thing, but it's a lot more lengthy.
Yes, and it was unanimous. We can probably raise most of the 10,000 just from the library board, I think.
Because we have no obligation, I mean, they can't come back on us for the money.
According to this
what I read
document.
there, Randy's been a banker for I don't know how many years, I'm guessing the loan might even come through you.
Well, we've quoted it, but I cannot participate in it.
You cannot participate in it, okay.
Because of conflict of interest.
I mean, it's in my district, everything I see, I think, Alan, I thank you for your donations for this in the years past, and any other discussion, but I'd make a motion to do it.
I think what they're doing for South Whitley, part of it, that auditorium kind of impresses me for the community. And I second your motion. I think it's, the county has no liability, and I think they're doing their homework.
I'm always impressed with the South Whitley Library. I was there recently for an event, and it just always impresses me. I enjoyed. I thank you for your work that you do there.
We remember our big meeting room, we were supposed to set up 80 seats for that meeting, and it was packed. Well, this is going to accommodate 102, and we're going to have 16 foot at the end that's open. So it'll be a much nicer place, and people will be able to see better.
So I have a motion and a second. There is a resolution number. That resolution number is 2019-02. I would ask that you include that in your motion.
I'll make a motion to the resolution 2019-2 to accept it, or however I'm supposed to say it.
And Bill, you'll accept the amended motion. So I do have a motion and a second. I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, the same, and the motion passes.
Thank you.
Yes. Shall we get a copy first?
Yeah, I'm gonna need a copy because I need to.
Do we want to get a copy before we sign?
No, I
Or
need
with
it after.
signatures?
Do you need the original or do you need a copy? Because I need to record it since it's. Can you just tell me your email?
Email? At @Whitley, LID, .IN.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is Commissioner Report.
Okay, I've got a couple of things. First of all, last meeting, we had discussed an additional person for commissioners and HR. You requested that we take that to WIS and have them re-score that. What we did is, in your packet, you've got the updated jobs description for the commissioner's assistant that we came up with. As you requested, we worked with WIS, who we contracted to develop and analyze job descriptions. We provided them with the scope of responsibilities and duties that we require for the job, and they provided us with the job description that you have before you. The commissioners worked very hard to present a proper job description to you, and knowing that you recognize the need for the job for the position, we ask for your approval to proceed. What we'd like to do is, hopefully everybody has that from your packet, the new position description. I'd like to go over that a little bit if we could, and ask any questions you have at this time. The incumbent serves as Commissioner's Assistant, responsible for providing administrative assistance to county commissioners, assisting with special projects, and supporting functions of Human Resources Department. The duties are conducting special resource projects, making related recommendations as requested by commissioners, assist in maintaining compliance with state and federal employer regulations, assisting in coordinating and managing aspects of the county computer system and contracts, receives and responds to inquiries related to the Board of Commissioners, the Whitley County government, including pending problems, citizens' complaints, investigating complaints, and directing citizens, government officials, vendors, and county employees to appropriate commissioner, department, or agency. It's going to be assisting in explaining policies and procedures for county personnel, assisting in coordinating legal services to commissioners, and this is a big one actually, because as we go forward, we get more and more lawsuits. As part of these lawsuits, we're having our third-party lawyers, not only our own Whitley County lawyer, but we work with a lot of other third-party lawyers. And in this position, it's very important that we're able to gather information. Right now, we're paying attorneys $200 to $400 to gather information. This position would enable us to have a resource to provide information to those attorneys and third parties to make sure that we're using our resources effectively and not spending money that we don't need to spend. And at $200 to $400 an hour, it really makes sense to have somebody to do that. Also, I'd like to point out in that a good cost savings, we're doing, again, a lot of third-party work with different people. Our landfill used to cost us $5,000 a year to maintain. We're up to about $25,000 to $30,000 a year to maintain the landfill now, just because of different regulations that we have and restrictions that we have. If we had this position to help us with doing annual or monthly reports to IDEM, there'd be a cost savings for us that we could probably get that down to 15, 20. The position would really provide, it would fund itself, it really would. If you look at the different duties that we have for this position, it's needed, and we're just asking you to take, I know you've taken a look at the duties and the job requirements here. Job requirements, what we're asking right now is we're saying that we're not asking a degree, we're asking a degree or equivalent job experience or government experience. So we've been trying to work to make sure that the position that we've provided to you is acceptable to both commissioners and council. We're asking for your help to provide us the position for the commissioners and HR. Do you have any questions at all on the position that we presented to you?
Was this sent back to him, George?
Yes. What we did is we gave WIS the scope of responsibilities and duties that we were looking at. This took that scope of responsibilities, we told them, it really came back as a commissioner's assistant more than anything else. And that's why the position is commissioner's assistant. It came back as a PAT 310 again, came back as the same, and we had nothing to do with that. We told them exactly what we'd like as a scope of responsibilities. It came back the exact same as the other position that we had presented. And, we're not asking for any more or any less than what we would have if we would have done this with our own personnel committee. And we know it's an issue with the funding on that. We understand that. We haven't had anybody, we were approved to have somebody part-time for this whole year. We haven't had anybody in that position. So we have that funding. If needed be, we would use some CEDAP funds. We feel so adamant and passionate about this that we need somebody to help us, that we're willing to do whatever we need to do to make sure that we get the position filled.
Well, there's no doubt in my mind that you need this person. And if you describe what you need and it's been factored, whatever that factor comes back at, I think we should live up to or get out of the business with them. If we're gonna hire them, I think we've got $30,000 invested in them now. If we're not gonna believe them, we get rid of them.
Any questions from anyone on this position?
You said something about you could use some CEDA money. How does that work?
Well, if needed be, we would subsidize it with CEDAP money. It really is not what CEDAP money is for, but it need be, whatever we need to do, we really need the position filled. We're getting into a situation now where we're looking at a new, either a jail facility or a community correction facility. We've got a lot of, again, third parties that we're working with that we could eliminate some of the third party work. It just makes sense to do this. It honestly does.
I appreciate the commissioner's due diligence at going back and looking at the job description and duties again, so it's more specific to what you want.
Right.
And, the process of factoring is what it is. And I do recognize the need for the position.
Is the general fund sufficient to do this?
And again, we've been approved with a part-time person. We wouldn't fill that position at all. It would just be a full-time position we're looking at.
So it's essentially less than $15,000 addition to because the 30 is already approved?
I'm not sure, was it 36 maybe for the total?
Because it was split between our office and the commissioner's budget, it was like 18
Right.
Okay.
so far that's been approved. I think 18, hang on.
It's probably right around 24,000.
Yeah, 18,365 was approved for the budget, and because Tiffany was in that position for a little bit, there's $16,306.73 remaining, so.
There wasn't much change in this from the last job description.
So really what's needed is that.
There were a few changes as far as the position and, serving as commissioner's assistant rather than working with HR. The job requirements did change a little bit as far as needing a degree. I mean, it's difficult. The job duties and scope of requirements, work requirements, was basically the same for both of them, but there were some changes in there, and it was refactored by WIS at that time.
Last month in our March meeting, I felt we had a really good working session with council and the commissioners, as well as our current HR person, we found common ground, and council came up with a number that they felt, that we felt as a body that we could reasonably afford for an additional person. During that working session, we found in our compromise that it was agreeable that we would go back to WIS with a number and say, find us, let's factor our job description based on the number. This number is significantly higher than the number that council agreed upon in the March meeting. Can you offer any additional information on what happened between that March meeting and now, that we end up somewhere around $8,000 to $10,000 more than what we agreed on last month?
Well, I guess if we start out with a number and try to back into it, it's not the way the position is really, that's not why we've hired WIS to do this. To me, it doesn't make sense to start with a number that we have to back into. The position requires certain requirements, certain duties, a scope of work that needs to be done. Why would we back off on that and accept less than what's needed? And I think that's what commissioners are working with right now. Commissioner, it's
We
just...
tried to be honest with WIS, what we did, and what was there, and we left it up to them to present what's in front of you.
The number that you were working with, I think it was 36,000, is that what you were looking at?
Sounds right.
Okay. There are actually 15 people that make less than that out of our 256 employees. Is that what we want to give the commissioners? I guess I don't understand it, I really don't.
And I think that number would have made this more of a clerical and less personally responsible, is that right?
We're looking for an assistant, we're looking for somebody that can help us, that can work with the attorneys. We've got to have somebody that can file papers, we need somebody that can work with attorneys, with third parties,
Why do we elect a commissioner? Where does the commissioner's responsibility fall into that?
Our responsibility is totally with that. But this position, we're dealing with 256 employees now. This position, you've said it yourself, that after 80 employees, there should be an assistant or something for the HR. We're asking for somebody, not one person for HR and one person for us. We're asking for a combination so that we can work with those people. Chad, I wish you'd come in and for a day and just work with us on this. I understand that you don't see a lot of what we do, but we're in here every day. Every day we have to come in here, and you understand what I'm talking about. I know that, but I'm just saying it's frustrating because we do need somebody. We'll abide by your recommendation, but we really think that we need not a paper pusher, but we need somebody that we can work with, and that we can be of value to the commissioners and not just somebody to shuffle papers. And that's where we are. I'm sorry, but...
I get it.
We've discussed this on many occasions on it, and we sent it back to WIS, got the report back again, and that's what we requested on. We all in agreement that position needs to be filled on it. So I'm going to make a motion that we do the additional appropriation resolution ordinance for a human resource assistance. This is the starting salary?
It would be a commissioner's assistant. is
Sorry,
what we
I
would
didn't
be.
change that on there. Just cross it off and write
Okay, I'm sorry.
commissioners.
What's that?
It's commissioner's assistant, sorry.
The job title,
Yeah.
the line item name,
Yeah,
it
nothing
has
else
changed
changes
from,
except
it has changed from human resources assistant to now commissioner assistant.
I will change the terminology to become a commissioner's assistant at the starting salary of $46,642. Excuse me, $44,642. And I will make that motion.
And I'll second that motion.
Who made the second?
I did.
Okay, yeah, any additional discussion?
I would like to add to that, the starting salary on that is $40,345. The maximum, the base salary is $44,642, but we're asking for the $44,642 as a base salary for this, but the starting salary is $40,345.
Does that mean that if someone came in with exceptional qualifications, they would start at higher?
Right, if they were probably within the government, but otherwise,
But not
you know,
to exceed the 44,600?
Right.
Thank you.
So I will need to amend my motion for the starting salary of being $40,245.
345.
345. And the base being 44,642.
Yes.
I will make that amendment.
So you'll start them out at 40,000?
Yes, 40,345.
You second my amendment?
Yeah, I'll second that.
So I have a motion and a second. Excuse me. Any additional discussion?
Okay, I would agree with 3/4 of the council, and we brought in a 36 to 38,000, what we thought starting salary should be. I mean, so right now, you're telling me you want to start them at 40,000.
Right.
Okay? I was under the assumption all the time, you wanted, and I don't know what the technical, the right word is, I thought you just wanted a secretary to handle paperwork. Okay? My feeling now, and I'll tell all of you, if you're looking at more of HR assistant and somebody to help with legal paperwork, and you're saying that we're paying our lawyers $200 to $400 an hour, and this new person should relieve some of that bill, then I guess I'm changing my mind at the 40,000 on what that person needs to do. And we've agreed all along, you need somebody. There's no question in my mind, or any of our minds, we were just, about the money. But now you're telling me what you really want. We were at 36 to 38. They want another $2,000. I got no problem with that. And that's exactly how I feel.
That could be more than that.
I know that could be more than that, but what they want now, and if George is, I know he's telling me the truth, we could save $4,000 a month in legal bills, right or wrong. And I know I'm going the other way now than what I was thinking, but I agree with the rest. We've hashed this out for 3 months, and I guess I'm down to the point that if it's $2,000 or $4,000, and they need somebody, that's my feelings now.
I don't think it's as much as what they want as what they need.
Yeah, exactly, what they need, yeah. And,
Another thing we need to remember, if this person can prevent one lawsuit, our deductible is $50,000 every time somebody files one. That's what our insurance, that's all we can get, and our deductible is $50,000.
Right.
Who decides?
They can save one lawsuit.
Yeah.
There's that gal, there's that salary right here.
Who decides where she starts? How do you come up with that figure?
With the number?
Yeah.
We always start at the starting pay, unless they've.
40,000?
Exceptional, yeah, the 40,345 would be the starting. If they've got exceptional experience, it would be, that's an open area there, but we would start, this position would be at 40,345.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, the same. Let it be shown that the motion passes 4-2.
Thank you. Okay, that was the easy one. Hey, we've been talking to you about the
Yeah, I'm going through.
jail tax for quite a while here.
But I read it. We've discussed it for so long, and if we're at 36, 38, and they keep their promise.
And this
If
just
they-
gets signed by you guys, so, and again, it's for the base, because that's what the.
I think you all know that the position that we've been put in by the state. The state has emptied out the prisons and sent all the level 6 offenders, the felons, down to the counties.
Okay, I'm sorry, no, you're right.
This happened about 3 to 4 years ago.
Yes, you're right. I'm sorry.
Our jails are full, and at that point with the full jails, we're getting to the position that the state now has sent us a letter saying that we must take care of the jail overcrowding that they've caused. So at this point, we have a couple of options. We could do nothing and wait for the federal government to come in, because what they're doing is they're coming into the different counties right now, and they've gone to Vigo and I think Montgomery County that they've gone to. And the feds have come in and they've told people that these different counties that you have to build a jail. Vigo County is spending $80 million right now, and they're about the size, I think even a little smaller than what Whitley County is. So our position has been as commissioners, how do we take care of that? What do we do so that we don't have to spend $80 million? And I'm not sure that we can even get it past anybody as a referendum. So what we've done is we've formed our jail task force. We've told you about the jail task force. It was the judges, the prosecutors, probation. We had the sheriff, everybody that's involved in the correctional system. We had together and we said, okay, what can we do to take care of this? The option that we came up with, and John was part of this committee that we had also, was we broke it down into, there are probably out of 127 prisoners that we have in the jail right now. Right now, we probably have about 50 to 60 that are should be in jail. So in breaking that down, the rest of them, there's about 50 that are actually technical violators. They've violated their probation. They can't go to work release. So what ends up, they're in jail and they spend their time. They've already spent their time once and now they're having to spend more time in jail. So how do we take care of that? And then we have our mental health issues, probably 10 to 20 in mental health problems. So how can we take care of that? Commissioners have been working with the community corrections facilities, the sheriff and Paula Warden, to see what can be done. We've talked to the DOC, we've gone down and we've talked to the DOC. What we've decided is for 10 to 12 million, we can come up with a facility that will hold our work release. It'll be a brand new facility to hold the work release, and it'll actually hold the technical violators in addition to that. So we can get our jail population down to that 50 to 70 that we need to be. 80 is our maximum according to the state. We can hold 103, but the state says you can only hold 80% in the jail and be legal. So the only option we've got is to come up with some kind of a funding so that we can take care of this facility. Commissioners are hoping to work with the council. This ordinance was provided to us by Umbaugh and Sons and Matt Shipman. Matt and Umbaugh got together. The process that we have to do to provide a jail tax, and nobody likes a tax, but it's a jail tax. It's a LOAD. It's an income tax, is what this is. The state's provided us to be able to take care of the problem that they've created for us, that we can go to our people and get this jail tax. So the process for this is we have to present it to you for recommendation to go forward. All this is, the vote that you're doing today is a recommendation to go forward to a public hearing. The public hearing will be provided within 30 days. After that, it will come back to the council for approval. You can approve or deny at that point. But we're asking to go forward with this at this time for the ordinance, and I'm not sure what ordinance number it would be, but, yeah, 04 probably.
Oh, yes.
It would become ordinance number 2019-04. Again, none of us like the idea of a tax, but without funding, I don't know how we're going to do what we need to do. I really don't. We've got, there's a possibility, Parkview is willing to work with us on a mental health facility as part of this, and we do have to provide space for them for their programming, but they're willing to do everything as far as program for us. And then we've also been talking to the 80/20 Foundation and trying to get a possibility, and they've been positive about providing a vocational training facility within this. So I think Whitley County could take a step forward with this jail tax. And again, it's a .2 jail tax. All the information is on the sheet that I provided to you for the ordinance. I just ask for your recommendation to go forward so that we can take it to the public.
George, see if I got myself painted in a corner, or we are. But if we don't do something, or the options are, if we could find another jail to house prisoners, we could send them there for what, $50 a day?
It's $55 a day. Yeah.
That'd be, that.
And we would have at least 70 prisoners.
That's $3,500 a day. Or be forced into building the jail, just a jail.
Yeah. And then and that's the good thing. And talking to, we've done a lot of maintenance work on our jail. And the jail, without overcrowding, it probably will last another 10 to 15 years. And that's what Mark's telling us is, so it's kicking the can down the road. Yes. But right now, it's a great option. And hopefully, down the road, there'll be funding from the state to help us on a new jail. But right now, this is all they're offering us.
Well, and if Parkview can do for us what you kind of think they can do, we might not necessarily cure any drug addict, but we might keep them from coming back is all.
Yeah.
Because that's part of our problem, isn't it?
Whitley County has a 77% recidivism rate right now, and that's one of the highest in Indiana. And but I kind of question that a little bit, because I think there's a possibility that we do better data entry than what anybody else does. But the fact remains that we're showing 77% recidivism rate, and that's a fact that we have that. So 3 out of 4 that goes into jail come right back. We've got to stop that cycle that they're in. And the only way we're going to do that is try to deal with the opioid crisis, and that would be part of what Parkview would do too. They do a addiction program as a part of their mental health program, because they go hand in hand.
If we don't get that jail population down, this has bothered me for an awfully long time, that somebody's going to get hurt over there, and we're going to have a lawsuit we can't win.
Yeah, right now we have 3 people in a cell that are, the cell is built for 2, and we've got so many people that we can't qualify them to put it together, to classify them. And then another problem we've got is the number of females that we're getting right now. We're getting to the point where I think we've got almost 30 females in the jail, which limits us to what we can do. It's not a good situation, and the state, has helped put us in this position, but it's the opioid, crisis. It really is, it's bad.
Has the commissioners checked on portable jails?
What we are looking at with this jail is we've gone to Whitley Manufacturing, and they do the pods, They actually make them there at South Whitley. That's what we priced out at this point. We have not looked at portable jails. We have not.
We're trying to avoid building jail.
Yeah.
Well, this wouldn't be building a jail, this is portable. But the sheriff sent one out that would attach to the back of this jail, and it's all fenced around with barbed wire and everything on it.
The only problem we've got with that is we don't have enough parking right now, and you'd be taking away from our parking area. I mean, it is an option, but
I
then,
mean, I just want to know if you checked into it before you start wanting to throw tax out here.
well, even that's gonna be expensive. I mean, then you're gonna have more people. I mean, the good thing about building a new facility, we can eliminate positions, because the way we want to do this in a pod system is we have less people involved with the community or correctional facilities that we have, is because of the fact that we can watch in the pod system. Then that's the way everybody's going with this pod.
I guess I don't understand how it could be less people. It's gonna take more staff, and the sheriff's already said it, it's gonna take more of his personnel to be out there.
Absolutely they are.
Well,
Or
I'm
wherever
not
you're
sure.
gonna put this at.
He's planning on adding deputies out there, and I'm not sure that we need deputies. DOC is telling us that we can, it is not a secure facility that we have to build.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I think the issue at hand is whether or not we want to support a public meeting.
Basically, that is true.
And from my,
This ordinance is strictly to give approval to go forward, to have a public meeting, public input, and then make a decision after the public.
Right. I'm not asking you to approve this ordinance right now. All I'm asking you is to approve going forward to get the public meeting, and then after the public meeting, once we get input from the public, then we will vote on this ordinance.
and the Lowit seems to be the way in which we can have the most control over this process. If the state gets involved, if the federal government gets involved, Senator Zay said that they're likely to change the nature of what can be done for public safety. Lowit, nobody wants a tax, but we have to pay for public safety. That's our primary responsibility.
Yeah.
And to be honest about it, the only reason that we're pushing right now is if we do this by July 1st, then we've got control of the monies. If we wait until after July 1st, then the state is requiring that we can only use 20% of the funds for operational cost. And maybe that's going to be enough, but I think it's better if we have control of the monies, like Tim says, that.
I make a motion that we call for the public hearing in regard to this ordinance modifying the local income tax rates. And the ordinance number would be
2019-04.
2019-04.
So I have a motion for ordinance 2019-04 to open discussion for a public hearing. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I've got a second. Is there any additional discussion? Okay, all of those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, the same. And
Thank you.
it was 5-1.
And that's all I have.
Okay, backing up a little bit, we have, we passed around the salary ordinance. I think we need a call for a vote on the salary ordinance, separate from the passage of approval for the human resource, or for the commissioner assistant. I think we also need to call for a vote for the salary ordinance adjustment.
I'll move to approve the salary ordinance.
Okay. Do I have a second? Okay. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed, the same. 4-2.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, minutes. Did everyone have a chance to look at the March 5th meeting minutes? I'll call for a motion to approve.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of passing the minutes, please signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, the same. Motion passes. Councilman Barrett, anything
I have nothing more.
to add? Councilman over to you. No. Councilman Comfer?
Just as a matter of note, I'd like the council to be aware that today is National Autism Awareness Day, which is becoming a huge issue in our community as it is across the country.
Thank you. Councilman Warner, anything to add?
No.
Nothing?
No.
Okay, I'll call for the meeting to be adjourned.